Hello again, everybody. This is Mr. Everything, and I am coming back at you with some Wargaming Wednesday. Yeah. So, if you haven't been to one of these, it's my weekly stream. We take a couple hours out of our day on a Wednesday morning at 11 a.m. to about 1 p.m. So just a couple hours, and I go over a number of topics. Most of them revolve around miniature wargaming, but it doesn't have to. We could talk about card games, board games, computer games, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's anything that's wargaming related. Now, lately I've been putting a lot of effort and a lot of time into my Napoleonic collection, and what I do with that is I reserve like a weekly or maybe even daily, it just depends on the situation, update system in on my stream. So if you want to really follow up on my Napoleonics, I have what I call my Waterloo Project updates. But today I am going to be talking a little bit about some Napoleonic figures. We're going to be talking about flag finals for my allies and how I think I'm going to be able to create some of my own. I probably should have got the pewter ones out of my shelf. I'm going to do that here in a minute just so we can compare. Actually, I think that is a pewter one, so we can just use this one as the example. Okay. And then we're going to talk about this tank. We're going to talk about these Russian paratroopers. We're going to talk about Oathmark a little bit. And those are the topics that I want to talk about today. If you want to chat with me, if you want to say anything, you're more than welcome to chat on YouTube live, and from time to time I will glance up at my monitor over here that has the chat on it, and if something needs to be addressed, then I'll say something. Like if you say, so what kind of tank is that? Then I'll answer, hey, it's a Jagdtiger, etc., etc. This is casual. This is not, first of all, it's not scripted in any way. I don't have, all I have is talking points. And then I just basically go off the cuff, just talk about whatever I feel like I want to talk about on that subject. But if you want to, guide the conversation through chat, you're more than welcome to drop something in chat and we'll talk about that. Okay, so let's talk about this one thing real quick. It's a Jagdtiger. Okay, this Jagdtiger, it's fairly quick build actually. I filmed 2 of 3 videos. I've uploaded one of the videos, and that was basically an unboxing sprue. I call it a sprue review, and go check it out. It basically just shows like what's included in this package. And in the second video, I assemble this tank step by step. You get to watch. Now, I haven't edited it down yet because it's 3 hours of video. And I know nobody wants to sit there and watch me build this tank for 3 hours, and some of it in quiet. So what I'm going to do is there are times when I say things like, okay, let me go ahead and get all these parts cleaned, and then I'll be right back. And then that cleaning takes like 20 minutes. So that 20 minutes I'm going to cut out. And so what I'm going to try to do is get that video down to under an hour of assembly. It took about 3 hours to assemble this from the beginning to the end. And then as you can tell, it's not painted yet. So my third video hasn't been recorded yet, but I'm probably going to start that in a couple of days, maybe this weekend, because I have these Russian paratroopers here that I feel need to get done, and I'll explain that here in just a minute. One thing I really do not like about this model, and that is the placement of this machine gun in the back. Even if that is historically accurate, I do not like this little thing. It's too flimsy. It's too fiddly. It's going to easily break or come apart. I really am afraid for this piece right here. I think they should have, and this is just me, either using like a piece of metal in there, or I probably could have did that, and then glue that to a piece of metal, and then have it so that it can slide down into the base of the tank, and then when you're done with it, you can pull it out and put it off to the side or something, because I feel like after about less than a year of gaming, that thing's going to be busted. And if you play at a club or a hobby shop, or if you play at a convention or something, and you have to constantly transport this vehicle around, I don't give it 6 months. That thing's going to be broke. So you just got to be careful about that, I guess. I don't know. There's got to be a good way to transport it. Maybe make a foam thing that can slide over your machine gun when you're transporting it or something. But yeah, it's a beautiful model. I really liked the model. I liked there wasn't a whole lot of these deployed in the real World War II, but if you okay, so let me give you a little anecdote, or a little so a little, what's the word for it? I think it's anecdote. I've been gaming since before time, right? Those of you that know me, you know I've been gaming for about 50 years. Almost, no, maybe not. 40, 43, 44 years, something like that I've been gaming. Okay, so throughout my, we'll call it a gaming career, right? Throughout my gaming career, I've noticed a trend, and other people that I've gamed with have also noticed this trend, and I do things, I don't want to be trendy, so I will do things that deliberately fight the trend. And is that a good thing? Not necessarily. The trend is actually might be there because it's fun, and so people are doing it because it's fun. Now let me explain what that trend is that I'm talking about. Guard units, super heavy tanks, battleships instead of destroyers. Okay, there's a need, and even in MMOs or first person shooters or whatever, in all of these games, humanity, I just think it's the human condition, has the desire to have the best, right? And so when I tell a friend, hey, let's put together like a Napoleonic army and let's fight it out, they'll show up at the table with all the guard units. I'll say, okay, let's play this World War II game, and we'll have, you pick your army, I'll pick my army, and they'll have all the SS with all their super heavy tanks. Or we'll go and we'll play like a Navy battle or whatever, and they'll show up with a Yamato, or some, the Iowa or whatever, and and it won't be what I'm trying to say is when you look at the table, the forces on the table are nowhere near historical. They're heavily balanced or weighted towards winning, right? Which I think that most companies that use points look at their numbers and they say, okay, this unit is much better than this unit, so its point value is going to be higher. Well, that does a couple of things for the wargamer. One of the reasons why players, and if you're not this way, maybe I'm not talking about you, but there are so many players out there that are concerned with this one thing. I don't mean it's the only thing they're concerned about, but this is one of the things that they're concerned about. Figure count. Okay. A lot of players want to have the fewest figures. And so I don't want to say alleviate, but that's not right. They guide themselves towards the more expensive units so that they don't have to buy as many. And that means literally they don't have to go to the store and buy as many. So they have less figures on the table. I might have a goblin army, that has like 500 models on the table, and they might have an ogre army and they have like 5 models on the table. And I'm not saying that one army is better than another army, because I believe that 500 goblins could kill 5 ogres pretty easily. But because there is a quality in quantity. So just because you got the best tank doesn't mean you're going to win. But the low skill players will and high skill players, but low skill players will go and I'm not talking about, I am talking about. Okay. How do I put this into multiple categories? Because it's all pretty much the same. When I say low skill, I'm talking about they don't have a tactical genius. They don't know where to maneuver or how to position their troops for the best success. But I'm also talking about they have no skill in modeling. They can't build the right models. They don't know how to paint. They struggle, right? And so when I say low skill, I'm encompassing the entire genre or the entire spectrum. A low skill player relies on the ability embedded into the super heavy tank or the guard unit. It's in their mind, it is a way to balance the game. Like, okay, I personally don't have any skill, but these tanks are super strong, so even if I put them in the wrong spot, I'm still going to be okay. And is that a bad way to think? Not necessarily. I mean, it's kind of genius, really, to think that way. So you're already on the way to learning tactics, really, and strategies. But a lot of people stop there, and then they never progress any further out, or they have no desire to progress out. Like their first army is full of these unstoppable juggernauts, and then they put a stop on it and say, okay, I don't need to buy another army. I've already got a good army. I win all my battles. Why do I need another army? So, so let's talk about me being the person that doesn't follow trends. Because of that mentality, that there are players out there that use the meta. Okay, and when I use that is an abbreviation. That is not a word for it is a word, but I'm using it as an abbreviation for most effective tactics available. And if you use the meta, okay, that's basically what I was talking about. So what I'm trying to say is I try not to use the meta. I force myself to say, well, that's a great vehicle. I don't want it. You know, man, that thing will win every time. I don't want that. I think I'm shooting myself in the foot, right? You know, like, of course I'm going to, you should want to have some good armies, or, great tanks and stuff like that. But there should be a balance. You should have a balance of is it the meta, or is it historical, or is it a viable army, or am I just playing the point game? And if you find yourself playing with, let me rephrase this. I found myself lucky that I had friends that thought the same way that I did. We all, and I'm going to focus on World War II because that's really where my historical miniature gaming got started, was with World War II tanks. I don't know if you remember this game out there called Tank Charts. GHQ put out this game called Tank Charts. It was a great game, but I've moved on from that. Tank Charts was had its day in the sun, and that sun has set. I've moved on to other games. I had my very first war game. My very first war game was a game called Angriff. Angriff was a tank game also, but it also had infantry and stuff like that, just like Tank Charts does. But it's like a little traveler black book. I mean, it was a little book, and it was called Angriff, and it just didn't have enough material in it. Everything was spoken. It was very focused on certain things, and it didn't have a wide enough scope. And so that's why I went to Tank Charts. On the miniatures, we had little GHQ and CNC 1/300, 1/285 scale tanks on our dinner table, and I'd invite my friends over, and we'd play some battles, throw some dice. It was fun. And then I went to this local hobby shop, which, I mean, is more of a toy store, really, but it was within walking distance of my house. It was like 2 miles away or something like that. And I'd go there every weekend just to see what was new and stuff like that. Toy-wise, the Star Wars miniatures and all that were there, or action figures, if you want to call them that. And but they also had like Corgi, die-cast metal, like Thunderbirds. They had stuffed dolls, and basically it was a toy store. They had wooden stuff, wooden train sets and stuff. But on this one shelf, it was really small. It was like one of my shelves over here, like 4 or 6 feet, something like that. They had these what's called bookshelf games, right? And I was like, fascinated by that. And I saw that like most of them were World War II and Avalon Hill, if you remember those guys. And I found this game. I pulled this game out. It was Squad Leader, right? And I was fascinated by the fact that I could play like the Germans or the Americans or the Russians, and I could move them around on this hex map, and they have ranges and hexes and stuff, and it was basically my first introduction into wargaming, board gaming. And so I picked that thing up, and I think I played every scenario in Squad Leader probably 10 times solitaire. So like I had a dresser, and I would set these map boards up on my dresser, and I would play on my dresser in my bedroom solitaire. And if I don't finish it, it's no big deal. Go to school the next day, come back, and then I can finish a couple more turns. And through Squad Leader, I introduced a bunch of my friends into wargaming, and we really enjoyed scenarios. Like, there was actually historical precedent. Like, this is actually what happened. We got to imagine putting ourselves into the role of that squad leader or that company commander, and we had to accomplish the mission or whatever, right? And or the defender had to accomplish his mission. And that kind of, I'm going to say, kind of molded. We were young and impressionable high schoolers, right? So we were, our philosophy when it came, and I brought this all the way through my gaming career, but the philosophy has always stayed the same. I could care less how many points an army is. That is not, I don't even care. You could have a guard, you could have a militia, you could have a Cossack. It doesn't matter to me. I don't care about any of that BS. One guy's got a 5 shooting skill, the other guy's got a 6 shooting skill. I don't even care about that. That is not even in my vocabulary. What my vocabulary was, who was at the battle? Why were they at the battle? What strategies? What was the terrain like? What was the weather like? That's all I care about. I care about the actual historical accuracy of the battle. Now, not really the accuracy, the historical overpinnings or whatever. Now, I understand you have to have a shooting skill, but that's the game. That's the mechanics of the game. That, to me, that's not the battle. The battle is who was there, why were they there, how were they there, what kind of weapons did they have, why were they fighting this fight, is there a special character, is there any documentation, novels written about this battle, etc., etc. And that's where I get, and my friends were kind of the same way as me, and that's probably why they were my friends, is because we had a common philosophy. And now every now and then we would invite someone to come to one of our games or whatever, and they would focus on, I need the best army or I need the best troops, and then slowly we would wean them off of that and say, no, you don't need the best, you need to have fun. And how do we have fun? We have fun by immersing ourselves into the commander's thought process, or looking at historical battles, like, okay, this, Hill 56, what troops were on Hill 56, why were they there, and how did it historically turn out? Because we like to know, how it turns out. But sometimes if I'm presenting a battle to my friends, I'll say, this is the situation, this is where you can probably hear trucks outside because we got our doors open. You can hear, you can, you're on the hill because of this reason, and this is the troops that you have. Go, right? And then at the end of the battle, I'll say, okay, historically, this is what actually happened. And guess what? You did exactly what the commander did historically. Or you did something different and won where he actually lost. So we took enjoyment in being our own strategist, experimenting and learning tactics and things like that, and overcoming odds. Okay, speaking about overcoming odds, historical battles are not always, if ever, even. So sometimes you got one tank 233 in the Ardennes forest, all by himself, and he's fighting against a whole company of American tanks. Point-wise, he's outpointed. You're looking at maybe a 100-point German force against maybe an 1,000-point American force. But there are things that make it so that 100 points can win the game, i.e., his tank armor is so high the Americans can't penetrate even with the best rolls. Or maybe he's in a terrain situation where the terrain makes it impossible for the Americans to maneuver, so they can only get like one tank up at a time in the Ardennes forest. So what I'm saying is the historical accuracy of the battle makes it more enjoyable than relying on points, because points don't tell the story. Points are kind of like when you and your friend don't have an imagination, or you and your friends don't care about history, right? You're not even caring about that. You just want to play the game. And I see a lot of this, and this is where my gaming career comes in. I see a lot of this from... That's pretty loud. He needs a muffler. And he's still revving his engine like it's cool. Okay, so the... a lot of the modern games of the modern era have points associated with their troops. And that makes it easy for you and your friends to say, hey, come on over tonight, bring your army, and we'll just play like 1,500 points and we'll just go at it. There is a not a market, but there is a place for that, because maybe it's a last minute thought, like, hey, just bring a bunch of points over and we'll just play. That's cool, but I don't get as much enjoyment out of that as if I said, hey, I have this scenario, where it's called Quatre Bras, and there was a certain number of units here and a certain number of units there, and there was this terrain. Come on over and we'll play this Battle of Quatre Bras. I get more enjoyment out of that than I would out of, hey, just bring 1,000 points and I'll bring 1,000 points and we'll put it on the table and we'll just battle it out. And the terrain, we'll just randomly place terrain on the table until someone cries. No, it's just not the way I like to play. Okay, sorry, I've got kind of on a sidetrack. So I was specifically talking about super heavy tanks, guard units, and what I was trying to say is a lot of people like to use meta to have lower model counts because there are higher point values, and that means it'll make up for their ineptitude in tactics. But if you and your friends are already saying, hey man, let's bring our biggest and our heaviest stuff, and let's just see what wins, right? Well, that's not fun. I mean, for me, it's not fun. But if you said, hey, we're going to play this one battle, and in that battle, there were these 2 Yag tigers defending this village in Market Garden, and you jump in with a bunch of paratroopers, and you try to take this tank out, or these tanks, but you only have like 3 turns to do it. That's where I get the, okay, I got this thing I got to do, and I got to overcome this, and I got to strategize. So that's where I get my enjoyment from. I'd be either side, doesn't matter, because I know that tank's going to get his ass kicked. But then the paratroopers, I have to think, okay, well, how am I going to do it? So it's just, I enjoy the handicaps and the limitations placed on me by the real world battles. And on top of that, a friend of mine might really be into Russians, and I'm not into Russians. So maybe I'm big into Americans and all the American battles. And those are the ones that I research and get the terrain for, get the models for. But he does Russians. And I'm like, and he says, hey, let's go do this battle of Minsk, or whatever. And I'm like, well, I don't know anything about that battle. So by going and playing, I actually learn quite a bit. So it's a learning experience. So, okay, so let me put this tank away, because it's actually a commission that I'm painting this for somebody. So let me put that off to the side. Okay. That's what I get. My foot clips the tripod of my camera. Okay, I'll have to fix that when I get back. Total disaster. Okay, got one more thing. Oh, no, I don't. I don't need it. Okay. I was thinking I was going to grab those flag finals, those pewter ones, but that one's actually a pewter one, so. Oh, okay, hang on. Yeah, I think that's where it was. That looks good. Okay, well, we'll leave it. Oh my gosh. I got this one leg of the tripod right down here between my legs, and you can't really see it, but and then when I got up, my foot caught it, and disaster. Okay, but luckily my cocoa was not spilled. That's the most important thing. Okay, back to this. I'm saving this for not last, but this is a highlight of my day. It's going to be some experiments. Plus, I keep looking over here because that's where my broadcast software is, and I have to check to see if I'm in frame. Where my chat is over here, which is right underneath the camera. So when I'm looking over here at the chat and the camera, I have to kind of look out of my eye and say, okay, is that, am I in frame? But, it's all good. Okay, so putting that aside, I'm going to jump onto this real quick. Okay, Soviet Airborne Squad, right? Then they're jokers, right? I have 5 boxes worth. There are 50 models here because they come 10 in a box. 40 of these are actually commissions. A guy said that he needed 4 squads of 10. I already had a box, so I decided I'm just going to do them all at the same time. And then I will take 10 of them and sell them on my store. And so these are actually, because this commission came in before that tank commission did, I'm going to do these first. I could do them simultaneously, paint a little bit of this, let it dry while I'm painting a little bit of that. But there's so many of these guys, 50 of them, that, and I like to paint like one color at a time. So like I'll pick a uniform color and then I'll paint all the way down. By the time I get to the end, that first guy is dry. So there's no need to worry about that tank. But I anticipate finishing these up either tonight or tomorrow. And so then I'll be able to get that tank done this weekend. Okay, and I tell people, give me a week, even though it only usually takes me 2 or 3 days. But that way, I'm able to get some stuff done. If I finish the rest of these topics that I want to talk about, I will do a little bit of painting on these on stream, just to fill up the last amount of time. If I don't worry about it. All right. So, there's a lot I want to talk about in Oathmark. Oh, yeah. I said I was stalling on these guys. The reason why I'm stalling is because I ordered 2 spools of cord. I ordered a 1.5 millimeter spool and a 1 millimeter spool. And that 1 millimeter spool is supposed to be showing up today. And if it shows up before we finish, then great. And we'll be able to talk about that and do a little bit about that. Okay, so I want to go into Oathmark right now because I'm killing time. No, because of I'm excited about this game. I haven't been excited about a new game or a game in general for me. And guess what? This is point values. This is a point value game. Oh, but you know what? It's fantasy. And because it's fantasy, you're not going to find any historical reference. You're not going to find any battles that actually took place. So it has to be point value. But yeah, I'm super excited about this game and the expansions and things like that. And I haven't been excited about a game since I bought my first copy of Bolt Action. Okay, so Oathmark, right? I'm in the middle of doing some tutorial videos, or actually it's more like a boot camp. I call them boot camps because they're not only tutorials, but they're also highlighting certain rules or strategies or tactics or going over army lists or things like that, as well as going over each individual rule and explaining the rules. So my first 3 videos are up right now, and those are that's the basic game, right? It's the introduction, it's the combat basically, and it's like moving, right? Activating units. So those are the 3 videos. The next video is going to go into the advanced rules. Well, the advanced rules is very short chapter. It's like 2 pages. And the main thing about the advanced rules, 99% of the advanced rules talks about heroes or champions, like your general or champions in the unit or individual figures running around like necromancers or wizards or whatever. And that's pretty much what they call the advanced rules. So that should be a really quick video. So but after that we're gonna venture into something called kingdom building, and I'm gonna put a little effort, not into my video production because I don't put any effort into that, but I'm gonna put a little effort into explaining or going into detail how you build a kingdom, or or why certain things are important in building a kingdom, because and this is one of the reasons why I really like this game, and that's why I'm going to put a little extra effort into it, is because of kingdom building. Kingdom building is more than half of this book. And okay, so I'm just going to speak in generalities. Why is kingdom building important? Well, each race, humans, dwarves, elves, etc., have rules about how they build their kingdoms. If you watch some of my previous videos, I talk about how I'm disappointed with the army building, and how, you know, the way the units are picked, and you can have up to 4 of each type of unit, and blah blah blah. I need to backpedal a little bit about what I said, and I'm going to have to admit that because I'm new to this game and I really don't know everything there is to know about this game, and I haven't read every one of the expansion books or anything like that, and I'm strictly going by this and one other book, the Oathbreakers, which is the undead. These guys went about army building in a unique way that I now realize takes this game over the edge for me. I was kind of teeter-tottering on, it's a good game, but is it a good game? I love the mechanics of the game. The actual fighting of the battles and stuff is really cool, but I don't like the way you have to build your armies and stuff like that. So I was kind of like in a limbo area. But once I reviewed, because I haven't read, but I have reviewed, I've breezed through the kingdom building, I now realize that I'm stupid, or I was under the assumption from all the previous games that I played that you build an army XYZ, where in Oathmark that's not how you do it. And I know I'm beating around the bush, and you're probably reaching through your monitor right now saying, "Get to the point. Just say it already." Okay. Let me take a sip first. I actually, I'm disappointed with that hot chocolate right there. First of all, it's cold as hell, but I made it last night, and I drank about half of it, and then I said, you know, I'm just gonna go to bed. And I left half my cup of hot chocolate on my counter here, my table. And when I got up this morning, I was like, "Ooh, I got that hot chocolate. I could just heat it up." And then I said, "Nah, let me just boil some water and add some more hot chocolate to it. Fill it up to the top with boiling water and stir it." It doesn't taste the same. It feels like I burnt it or something. Okay, sorry. But, you know, it's drinkable. And you know, I can't let hot chocolate go to waste, even if it's cold. Something I could do is put some ice in it and make it ice chocolate. I don't know. I like iced coffee. Okay, back to the Oathmark. Kingdom building. Okay, so they got this unique rule, which I'll go over with in my boot camps, but I just wanted to share this with you. They've got this rule. It's a variety of rules that each race, elf, dwarf, you know, skeletons, whoever, they have rules on how to build their territory, their kingdom, their region. Okay. And each army has a list of terrain types that they can put in their kingdoms. Like the human kingdom might have a castle, where the dwarven kingdom might have a mine, where the skeletal kingdom might have a cemetery. I'm just using those as examples. I don't even know if that's true. But every kingdom has a list that they get to pick from, and every kingdom's list is different. There are some overlaps, obviously, but they're like every kingdom might be allowed to have a forest, or every kingdom might be allowed to have a hill or something like that. But not all kingdoms will have a forest. Like the dwarves probably don't have forests, and the humans probably don't have caves or something. I'm just using that as an example. Okay, so by choosing which terrain, because you're limited on which ones you can put where and how many you're allowed to have in your kingdom, etc., etc. And there's even a map that you use to make your kingdom, right? Once you have your kingdom's terrain chosen, those terrain pieces inform you on what units you're allowed to choose for your kingdom. Like the humans, let's just say, if they have a wizard's tower in their kingdom, then they're allowed to pick a wizard in their armies. If they have a wooded area, then they're allowed to pick or build catapults. I think that's awesome, because what that means is I don't have every unit in the book for my army unless I have that piece of terrain in my kingdom. And that is just, so basically what I'm doing, okay, which is, it's kind of a backhanded way of limiting how many troops or what types of troops you can put in your army without it being directly in your face. And I think that's a very subtle, I didn't even realize it when I started reading a book, right? I didn't figure this out until I broke into the kingdom building chapter that I'm realizing this game has got a little bit of depth to it. It's got this weird underlaying. I want to say dichotomy, but that's probably not the right word. But it's got this weird undertone of, you have to know where you came from to be able to build your army. And that is not fascinating, but that's really not refreshing. What's the word I'm thinking of? Exciting. It's super exciting that that I'm going to be able to kind of look at how I want to build my kingdom, and then those are the units that I'm going to be able to pick from. Now, campaign-wise, that's what you do the kingdoms for, is because, like, when you and your friends are fighting, you're fighting over territory that are in their kingdoms, and maybe you can acquire that for your kingdom, etc., etc. But as a campaign game, what we could do as players is every player could design their kingdom and then present it to maybe a campaign referee or a game master or something, and he could create a map of this area with all the kingdoms and their territories, or not, because it's kind of abstract. But or without the players, he could design these kingdoms and say, like, hey, John, do you want to play the skeletons? This is their kingdom. But then that's kind of taking it out of their control. So it's better just to let them design their own kingdoms. But I'm just saying there's a lot of options, a lot of variety of ways you could do it. If you play fantasy games like Dungeons and Dragons or something, role-playing games that is, you could easily take a region in your campaign and assign these terrain pieces to that region, and then you would know if you wanted to use these rules to resolve battles in that role-playing game, you definitely could do that. And you could take like, okay, well, I'm playing in the Sword Coast and there's this library here, so we'll pull the library out of the Oathmark. Or there's this river or swamp, okay, we'll add one of those to this kingdom. Or there's a wooded area with a bunch of this or that. So a lot of that could be evenly directly transferred from role-playing game to tabletop game. I dig it. It opened something up in me. It basically said, hey, you don't have to abide by the, 1 unit of these. You have to have one of these before you can have one of these type of army lists. You have to have 1 commander and 2 platoons. And then each platoon has to have 3 squads. And the squads have to have 1 machine gun or whatever. I don't have to abide by that. I can make my own army list by picking the terrain in my kingdom. And so even if you're playing humans and the other guy's playing humans, because your kingdoms are going to be different, your armies are going to be different. And so it was definitely a huge... I got super excited about that. Okay, got that out of the way. All right, can't hold off any longer. We're going to talk about these finals. I brought my 42nd foot, the Royal Highlanders. 42 meaning it's the answer to everything in the universe. Also, I'm noticing that I didn't touch up the flags on these guys, so I'll probably want to do that. These guys, I did touch up the flags. You can see that there's no white showing on the edge, and there's no red, or there's no white where the red and blue should be. So these flags are already finished, but these aren't. But that's okay. I mean, it only takes 2 seconds to fix that. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about finals. The finals are the cords that hang down from the flagpole. These finals were the metal pewter ones that I had to put on there and glue on there and paint. And I'm going to use these finals as a guide for making the finals for this. Okay, now I ordered this 1.5 millimeter cord. Now when I compare this cord against these pewter finals, right, it's a little bit thicker. It's too thick, in my opinion. These are actually too thick. The metal ones are actually twice as thick as they should be, but this is actually thicker than the pewter. So I really don't want to use the 1.5. I really want to wait for the 1 millimeter. Give me a second. I'm going to do it. I'm going to use it, and we're going to look at it. But I think I want to use the 1 millimeter for the rest of my units. But give me 2 seconds. I'm going to go to my dock, and we'll see if we got those in. It's only a few. Oh, okay. I'll be right back. Okay, let me look over here. Okay, negative Ghost Rider. We have not gotten in our shipment today yet. It's still early. I mean, I was just hoping to get it in by the time we got to this part of the video. Okay, so let's go ahead and start knocking this out. I'm going to show you what I'm planning on doing it. Now, there's a couple of different ways that I wanted to tie it. Now, just to give a little history on this. These, the majority of my miniatures use the metal spears or pikes from Warlord, right? They have these like little brass spears, and then cut them down to size or whatever and make standards, because the pewter standards are too flexible, they'll move around, or the plastic ones will just snap and break. I have a bunch of standards from Front Rank, and these standards are basically they're just straight rods. There's no spear tip on the top, there's no eagle on the top, there's nothing on the top, and I can't do that. I can't use that. So I looked at Warlord, and they actually sell these finals with spear tip separately, right? And so you can buy a box or a bag or whatever it is, a blister of these, and then I could put them on top of this looks like my King's German Legion. It is King's German Legion 5th Battalion? V Battalion. Okay, so 5th. Okay, sorry, I got distracted. Those guys would go on those Front Rank standards with ease, right? So I ordered a box of those. Well, cost-wise, okay, I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, cost for those finals are high per final. So if it cost, hypothetically, if it cost $5 to get 5 finals, then that's $1 a final. And if I'm doing 50 British units, that's $50. That's way too much, right? That's what I thought. And then I saw some string in my garage, and I said, you know, I could just make my own finals, because that's all it is just rope. And so I said, you know, I could do my own. Then I said to myself, if I paint the string, it'll look good, right? Once I tie it on there and I go to paint it and stuff. And I said, well, I could paint it or dye it first, and that way when I tie it on there, the paint won't flake off or whatever, because I can't prime it now because I've already built these guys. So I said, well, the cord I have is like 2 millimeter. It might even be 3 millimeter. It's pretty thick. And I said, that's way too big for a final. So let me just go ahead and order some thin cord. And I said, you know, all this is going through my mind while I'm doing it. I said, if I order some thin string, why don't I just order gold? And then I don't have to paint it. It'll just already be gold. And so I found this. Conmay. I found it on Amazon, to be honest, and it was inexpensive. I think it was $5, $6, something like that. and this is supposed to be like 100 yards. This is going to be way more than I'm going to need. This is way more than I'm going to need. So, but I ordered another one. I didn't know, I couldn't visualize in my head how big 1.5 millimeter was. I almost ordered 2 millimeter thinking it was going to be too small. And so I said, you know, I should just order 1.5, and then I should just go even smaller, because finals are actually very thin. They're not thick like that. But for a hobbyist and being pewter, you want it to be thick like that for the table. So I said, but because I'm not worried about that, let's go ahead and order 1 millimeter. And I think 1 millimeter is exactly what I'm going to need. Okay, so this cord, I'm going to tie a knot. I'm going to try to get real close to the edge. Okay, now this cord is very slippery. It's very slick, right? I mean, which is good, but it's just very slick. So I'm taking my handy dandy needle nose to grab the end of this biatch, and I'm gonna grab the inside, and we're gonna pull that knot tight. Okay. Oh boy, goodness. Oh my goodness. Okay. That knot is super tight. Okay, great. And you notice how there's like this super extra long piece. I don't care. I'm going to cut that off. That's why I brought these out. I got some scissors. Okay. How long are these finals, right? They're super short. You know, if I was to measure, I would say 25 millimeters, less than 25 millimeters from the spear tip to the end. Okay, so, and the end is only, you know, 1 or 2 millimeters past the knot. So I'm not even going to measure that. So approximately 50 millimeters is where I need the second knot at. Okay, and I'm going to go to 60 millimeters. Okay, let's do this. If that's a 20, so 60 millimeters would be there. Okay, I'm trying to position it so that when I cut this and then I cut that, the knot is going to be in a good spot. And now that I got something to grab onto, I can actually tighten this knot. Okay. Now I'm going to cut it with, give me like a little extra, something to grab onto. It's not final, no pun intended. Yes, pun intended. Okay. So that's way too long, but understand that I'm going to cut this tip off and I'm going to cut this tip off to bring it closer to the knot. Okay. So far, so good. if I need to grab it and pull that knot tight, I can. There we go. Okay, so using the 20 line here, going to the 30 line. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's 10 millimeters. Oh, that's 10 millimeters. Oh my gosh, what am I? That's 100 millimeters. What am I doing? Because now if I cut it in half, these things are going to be 50. Why didn't you stop me? Okay, so I went too far. Instead of 60, I went to 100. What a ridiculous. Okay, so I need to make another knot a little bit closer. A lot closer. Because I only wanted 25 millimeters per side, not 50 millimeters. I doubled it twice in my head. Oh man, what a math genius. Okay. So I'm going to 60 because I know that the center knot I tie is going to take a few millimeters off, and I want it still to be 25. Okay, that looks good. Okay. Let's grab the end. See if I can't grab this. Tighten that knot up. Okay. Okay. So I cut this excess piece off that I didn't need. Okay. Okay, so these two knots are 60 millimeters apart, and then the little tassels will be maybe 1 or 2 millimeters past each one, and then in the center I'm going to tie a knot around the flagpole, and what that's going to do is it's going to shrink this. It's going to shrink this down by maybe more. But we're gonna measure it right now. So from knot to knot, yeah, 30 millimeters. But that's from knot to end is 25. Okay. So I'm gonna tie the knot ahead of time. And I don't mean get married. Okay, I'm going to tie the knot. I know it's giant. I don't know if you can see all this on camera, but it's kind of, I'm going to try to center it as I shrink the knot. Now, before I finalize this knot, I'm going to put it through. Wow, it's super windy outside. Okay, maybe I'm not going to put it through. I don't know. There we go. Okay, I don't have a second needle nose over here, so I'll just use these. Some some graspers. Okay, and then I'm going to grab this other side. Okay. Yeah, this 1.5 millimeter is definitely too big, but this is the plan. This is the idea. Because that knot there looks really good. We need to turn it. Okay. And you can see one knot is going to be sticking up, and then the other knot is sticking down. I don't think I like that. I can tell you I don't like it. I can tell you right now, I do not like that. Okay, we're gonna try something else. I'm experimenting. Come on. There we go. It comes off. Okay. Okay, another type of knot. It's going to be more of a Prusik knot, and I don't know if you're familiar with that type of a knot, but this was just a half hitch. Okay, and this is too thick. I'm just telling you right now, so just bear with me. The 1 millimeter, I will, if it doesn't come in by the time this video is over, which might or might not come in, I'll definitely do a video on this and upload it for you guys. But what we do is we create a loop, and then might need another rod. Okay, I've got another rod. There we go. Got that bad boy right there. Yeah, put it there so maybe you can see it. Okay, so the way this knot works is these two basically, both of these are going to go inside the loop. And this is fiddly and small and stiff and slippery. And so I'm having a hard time gripping it at this scale. Okay. It's one Oh, grab the thumb. No, I didn't mean to do that. Okay. Come on. Come on. There you go. Okay, so I don't know if you can see that, but basically both ends of the final, I don't know if the focus or the lighting is very good. Okay, so yeah, I think you can see that. Where now when I pull it, both the cords are going to be going in the same direction. Okay, now the reason why I put it on this one was I'm going to tighten it up a little bit, and then I should be able to just slide it off of this one onto that one. That's the idea. And I can pull this pole out, and now it's on the standard. Okay, the downside of this now is I don't have a counter pull without maybe damaging my spear tip. And it's so thick, this string is so thick that it doesn't want to tighten up. I might have to fix this. Try the bottom. Try the top. And putting this final on might be something I want to do before I paint the standard. No, I don't know. With a thinner string. Okay, there we go. Yeah, with the 1mm instead of the 1.5, I think that's going to look a lot better. But if you notice, both the finals are pointing in the same direction. And that's what I needed. I needed them to be facing in the same direction. And I can roll this a little bit, maybe. Yeah, I can roll it. So now they're facing sort of in a downward manner. Okay, great. Are they about the same length as the pewter one? Why, yes, they are. I need to cut off the majority of the excess, I should say, not the majority. I want there to be a little bit of a tassel hanging from the knot. Yeah, that looks good. Yeah. Whoa. I don't know if you can see that. Look at the little tassels hanging off of that knot. That's starting to come out really good. Okay, so now I want these to be kind of hanging down, more down than out. You know what I mean? I could just finger fiddle with it and just push it around and get it to go the direction I want it. Kind of like that, or lay it closer against the flag. That looks really good. Now, if I was concerned about it unfraying or getting untied or something like that, I could take a little bit of my Elmer's, put a small little bit on my fingertip, and then I could make sure that I put it into the knot and the knots at the bottom. And I can also rub it along the sides or edges of these tassels. There we go. That's all looking good. And now there's a little bit of Elmer's in the thread at this point. Not a whole lot, just enough to stiffen it up. So now if I wanted to animate it, like have them fly in the wind or something like that. As the Elmer's dries, it'll stiffen up a little bit, and then I'll just have to come back to it and stiffen it up. But I don't mind it just hanging, kind of like that. That looks good to me. And that's not going to come undone with yeah, that's not going to come undone. And so now the King's Colors has tassels, which is part of the finals. Now, if we take a look at this pewter one, and then we take a look at the manufactured one, they look pretty good. I mean, I had to paint these, so, but this came gold. Big advantage. Well, disadvantage, time consuming. Big advantage, saves a lot of money, and it looks more realistic to me because it's an actual cord and not some pewter mold. I still consider this to be a little bit too large. If I went down to 1.5 millimeter, I think it would be more in line with this look. The knots should be a lot tighter, and the knot around the end of the pole would be a lot tighter as well. Yeah, but just through the experimenting, I'm realizing I'm not going to use a half hitch. I'm going to have to use a Prusik to make it look better. Yeah, that Prusik knot makes it definitely look a lot better. There was a concept that I had in my head that I was going to double wrap it. I was going to start at the back, come to the front. No, wait, let me back that up. Start in the front, wrap it all the way around, back to the front, tie a knot, and then take that front piece that I remember started with. I was going to overlap it over the knot, causing the strings to go down from the knot, which is more historically correct, but it just would have made that knot giant. And I at this scale, it's not something that I could do easily. And tightening it up would have caused that piece of rope that I would have put over the top of the knot. As soon as I went to tighten it, it would just pop it off. So it's not something that can be done at this scale very easily. Okay, so we're going to let that glue dry, and we're going to see what that looks like. And then I'm just going to go ahead and start painting some of these Russians while we wait to see if I get a shipment in. But I am going to do a video on this specifically as part of my Waterloo updates, tutorials, hobbying stuff. So you got a chance to see it firsthand, me experimenting with it. But yeah, as soon as I get that 1 millimeter one in, I'm going to do a video. All right, I think we touched a lot of topics today. If you guys have any questions about hobbies or modeling or painting or anything, just drop them in chat. I'll be glad to respond to those. My next color that I plan to work with on these guys is black negro. I know I saw that there was some people online complaining that Crayola had the word Negro on their colors, and this world is getting too woke. Get rid of all that, racial BS. Negros actually, I think it's in Spanish. It means black. It's not talking about Nigeria. I didn't know this. Man. Okay. This is Anita's all-purpose acrylic. I bought this like a million years ago. You can even see it was only $2.99 for this giant 8-ounce thing, right? 236 milliliters. Well, I never even read this. It's Rust-Oleum 2016. Rust-Oleum Corporation. Testers. And it even gives me a 1-800 number. Not that I'm going to call them, but made in the USA. Yeah, so this is the black that I like to use. We're going to do that, but before I get started, because it's going to take a second, I'm going to run out to the dock real quick, check to see if I got my 1mm cord. If not, we'll be back. We're going to start working on these Russians. Hey, I didn't kick the camera. Captain A. Okay, I am back. I got my sun visor on because it's my lights are bright. Okay, get rid of that. I had 2 brushes here. Where'd they go? I put them in this pile, I bet you. Okay, now I gotta look, see where they at. Where you is? I think there's one of them. Okay. So, hey, okay, well, we got a comment up here. We got Reg. Hey, Reg, how are you doing, man? Just saying hi, I guess. Well, hello. You missed the majority of the show. All my talking points. Pretty much, you can always watch it later on YouTube. That was interesting. Okay. All right. You can't see this, but got a little palette over here that I put all my paint drops on. Let's go ahead and do that. All right. So, got my black in the palette. Getting my water in there. And what's really cool about this Anita's black is I can go 50-50 water to this black and it'll still have a really good coverage. I'm going to adjust my camera a little bit. Wind is picking up outside. There we go. Now you can see the palette over here. Okay, so these guys are just going to be in the way, but that's okay. We'll just leave them. You got to me when I decided I'm going to start painting my Russian airborne. I've got 50 of them on the table here. Okay, I'm mixing up this super thick black with the water so that it'll flow better. I don't think I got enough water in there. Is that weird? That you would say you don't have enough water in your paint? Okay. Yeah, I do not use wet palette. I have a wet palette sitting on my shelf over there. I don't use it because I feel it's a waste. You know, I paint like every single day, and I would have to go through hundreds of sheets of foam, sponge, and painting sheets. Now you probably can't see anything because I'm like off camera painting. Yeah, I'm hearing things moving around, but I think that's just the wind. Now you get to see my crotch. Okay. So, yeah, so now you might actually be able to see what I'm doing. Okay, painting. One of the techniques I use is a contact technique. Whenever you see me painting, you'll see me holding the model, and I'll either be resting my hand on a surface, contacting a surface so that my hand doesn't move, or depending on the situation, I will be using my painting hand and making contact with my holding hand so that if there is any movement, they move together. And there's none of this counter movement. Like, I don't paint like this. I always paint with my hands touching either a surface to keep it from moving around, or each other so that they move in concert. Oh wow. Okay, so that really brings me to this next subject that I wanted to talk about. I forgot that I wanted to talk about it until I just started talking about this painting technique. And I say this with a heavy heart and sympathy and prayers. I even thought about asking you guys to pray with me. I'm hearing a vehicle. Might be driving by. Might be stopping by. Okay. I watched a video on YouTube. It was either yesterday or the day before, where these gentlemen were wargaming, miniature wargaming. They had their table out. They were moving figures around. They were rolling dice, having a good old time, trying to win the battle, right? Okay, that's great. That's fun. That's exactly what I wanted to, that's what I love to do. That's why you're here. You probably love to do it as well. Something I've noticed this in the past. I've noticed this in history, but years ago or what have you, and just never really put two to two together. And if I pause in my thought, it's because I'm thinking about something I'm painting. I'm looking at these shoes and I'm like, am I going to be able to get that in there? Okay. So bear with me. My thought process is going to be all over the place. Okay, but these guys were all having fun and everybody's doing great. And then I want to say something that I noticed, and I've noticed this before. I've noticed this at live conventions. People have played at my tables, and I've noticed it in the past. And of course, I don't say anything because, it's inappropriate. But I'm going to say in generalities today, a number of wargamers, for whatever reason, had very shaky hands. Okay. It's a disability. It's age. It's unfortunate. And I'm going to say I think I have a fairly steady hand. And so I'm blessed. I'm very appreciative to the Lord and to the world that I don't have like a nerve condition or an injury that caused my hands to shake, or could be one of a million different things. And so I just want to say, those of you out there, not just the ones on this video, but anybody else that has shaky hands or a disability that prevents you from painting, I get it. I'm sorry, and I pray for you. And I'm sure that it's frustrating. Like, you go to try to paint a miniature and your paintbrush goes all over the place. I'm really sorry about that. Washes will help you, and the contact technique where you have your both hands together, so if one shakes, they all shake. And that's why I do it, because when I try to paint like this, a minor just movement or shift with one hand versus the other, you'll get a poor paint job. Okay, now on top of that, now I understand. It's taken me a little while. I mean, I'm an old man and I'm an idiot. It's taken me a while, but I now understand why there are people out there that buy painted miniatures. You know, when I was much younger, young, dumb, and full of cum, I would say to myself, why would anyone buy a painted miniature? That's half the fun of the hobby is getting the model and priming it and painting it. And that was me just being ignorant. When I saw these gentlemen with shaky hands, I had an epiphany. Basically, I saw these guys and I was like, man, if I had a nerve condition or something in my hand and it made my hand shake the way these guys' hands are shaking, I would never be able to get a painted miniature on the table. And I immediately prayed for them. And I immediately gave thanks that my hands don't shake like that. I can only imagine. I can only imagine what it must be like wanting a miniature army and not being able to paint it. Yeah, my heart goes out to you guys. Those guys. I wish there was something that could be done. But I'm sure if something could be done, it would have already been done. I mean, it might have been like somebody had a nerve pinch in his spine or something like that. It caused his hands to start shaking, or maybe he's got some kind of ailment, or like I said, like a disability or whatever. Okay, I just wanted to say that. I don't want to harp on it or linger on it, but I just wanted to point out that my eyes were opened after watching this video. did I get black on my fingertip? I don't know. So right now, I'm painting their boots. Their boots are black. I'm using the Warlord box art as my painting guide. And just so you know, streaming is not my... I'm not good at it. I don't stream every day. I don't use this. I don't make a living streaming or making videos. So if I'm not keeping you entertained, if I'm not constantly talking, it's because I'm very focused. When it comes to painting, I have to really think about what I'm doing. My mind really goes into my work. And because 40 of these 50 models are going to be sent to a customer of mine, I want to make sure I do a good job for that person. You know, well, a couple of reasons. I take pride in my work, and I want return business. He's already talking about the NVKDs, or whatever they're called, the Russian I think they're NVKDs. NKVD, something like that. I don't even know, because I don't do Russians. I do a lot of Americans, and I do a lot of British and Germans. I don't even really do Italians or Finnish or Japanese or any of that. I mean, I'm not opposed to doing that. I just don't do it. Okay. I'm starting to hit a stride here. Any more chat? No? Okay, no worries. Yeah, I was noticing that a little bit about the my orders that I've got coming in. Hey, we could talk about that. Did I tell you if you watch some of my Napoleonic videos, or maybe it was last week, I don't remember, but we talked about flag companies and which ones are accurate and which ones have the best detail, etc., etc. And I still have not received my GMB order. I ordered it exactly the same day that I ordered my Flags of War. Flags of War came in a couple of weeks ago. GMB has not come in. And my GMB flags are needed to flag up the Guard Cavalry that I just finished. Speaking of guards, okay, so the GMB order's not in. Now, when I fell in love, because I was skeptical with Oathmark, right? You all know. I'm doing those tutorials mainly just to help me learn the rules, but also to share my knowledge with everyone. Boot camps. The first 3 videos, I was kind of on the fence still, whether or not this is a good game. The game mechanics, I like. Really good. But like the army building and stuff, I was struggling with. But once I realized that the army list in the book is not the army list, because you have to build a kingdom first, and the kingdom informs you on what can be in your army. So once I realized that, and it basically made me super excited for that game series. So I went to Litco, and if you don't know, that's where I buy a lot of my wooden bases from, is Litco. And when I went there, I ordered a bunch, and I do mean a bunch, of 1-inch square bases. That should tell you that I'm going to rebase pretty much all of my fantasy models that I can use with Oathmark onto those 1-inch squares. Dwarfs, orcs, skeletons, elves, humans. Okay, the postman is going by. That is not where I'm getting my 1mm cord from. That should be a different type of order. Oh, there we go. Almost missed this spot. I ordered other size bases as well, but I ordered a couple of hundred. I think it was like 200. 25mm. They were either 25mm or 1-inch. Funny note, everybody in the gaming world pretty much interchanges 25mm with 1-inch. I mean, they're pretty much the same scale. But they are slightly different. I mean, microscopically different. But if you go to Litco and you compare the 25mm bases to the 1-inch bases, they have a fairly sizable price difference, which I thought was weird. So obviously I ordered the 25mm, which I think is actually $1 cheaper than the 1-inch bases. I think. You can check it out. If you go to Litco, you can do the same. I did inquire about selling Litco on my store. That's probably not going to happen. Just so you know. I looked at the discounts and the minimum orders and stuff like that, and it just didn't seem like something I wanted to get involved in. I did finally get my Warlord order in. For those of you that might have been curious, that's where a lot of these Russians are coming out of, is the new Warlord order that I just got in. But I did also get my stone bridge that I ordered previously and got stone walls instead. Well, I did get the bridge this time. And I'll probably be doing a video on assembly and painting of that as well. I don't know, there's something about terrain that I like doing videos about. You know, building models of buildings, or like Sarissa, or you know, any of those. Oh, we got a bunch of chats. Okay, give me a second. Let me get this one boot, and then I will get into reading those. They all came in at once. Okay. What are you saying there, Reg? To follow up on what I posted about the Prussian method of flags. So yeah, so you're the one that was telling me about the Lieb and the different companies and stuff like that, if I remember right. Yeah. I've noted that many gamers use the Lieb standard and company standards to mark the 1st Battalion and the 2 company standards to delineate the 2nd and 3rd battalions. Before I read the next chat, that's exactly what I do with my French. I use the 2nd and 3rd battalion flags for the 2nd and 3rd battalion, but they're pom-pom colors. I use the company colors to delineate my battalions. So like, 1st might be blue and the 2nd might be white and the 3rd might be orange and the 4th might be purple or something like that. Because when you only got 24 figures on the table, that really doesn't look like a battalion. It doesn't even look like a company. That's like a platoon, So it just makes it easier for me. Okay, what was the next one you got? This may be why some of the flag printers give 2 company standards. Yeah, could be that. I'm not going to give them you're trying to think positive, and I appreciate that, because this world needs a little bit more positivity. But I think it's just ineptitude. Being harsh. I think it's them just being wrong. Boy, it is very, very windy outside. Don't worry, there's probably not going to be a tornado. I'm in Tennessee, in an area of Tennessee that doesn't normally get hit by tornadoes. Not normally. Not like Oklahoma or something, where they have to deal with it weekly. Oh dang, is it almost 1 o'clock? It's almost 1 o'clock. And I wasn't even sure if I was going to paint any of these Russians on stream. I thought that I was going to have more content to say. Go shopping?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was my son. Which I'm gonna say in quiet so that he doesn't hear me. I'm very proud of him. He got a job right before the pandemic, and he did not stop working this entire time. We don't worry about masks. We don't worry about vaccines. All that we care about is our health. We eat right. We exercise. And hell, he's young. So he's not going to have any worries. I'm the one that needs to worry. But okay, we're going to go ahead and call the stream right here. It's normally 1 o'clock when we end it. And I'm going to go ahead and finish this up. It doesn't look like we're going to get the 1mm string in time. So when I do get the 1mm string in, I'll record a video of me showing everyone in the world how to make your own finals. And then hopefully they'll look good. And once I get these Russians done, I'll be moving on to that Yag Tiger, and that's a video. The Yag Tiger is, I'm going to record the painting of it. My customer wants the ambush pattern, so I'm going to use stencils, and I'll show how to do that, even though I think I've shown how to do that in previous videos. But since I'm going to be recording it anyway, I figured, just show them how to do stencils as well. All right, guys, let's go ahead and end the stream. Any last minute comments? It doesn't look like it. Thank you, and I will catch you next Wednesday.